Hey folks, hey dads, mums, peeps. Decided this week to do something really different, and we decided to open up some of the email traffic we get. And people's names have been changed, and some of the details have been changed to protect the anonymity of those people. We just believe it would be really helpful that you could have an insight into what is going on for other people, because there are so many similarities, and in an effort to learn a happier way, really, then what I hope to accomplish is how I look at situations and events and read between the lines to help people gather more information about what's going on for them in their lives and in the situations that they find themselves in. So, yeah, just to tee up the approach that we're going to take here, Albert Einstein was asked, if you have 1 hour to save the world, how would you spend that hour? And he said, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and then 5 minutes solving it. And the truth is, most of the information or emails I get sent or questions I get asked are based on someone looking at a situation from their perspective and not really understanding the extent of the issue, the extent of the problem, the reality of what's really happened. And it has been measured that when people witness an event, then it takes literally a matter of microseconds for us to change even the tiniest details of that event. So almost never are we recalling an event that's occurred um, with 100% accuracy. We are tending to recall that event with the perspective of the world according to us and the way that we've seen it, which already puts a layer on top of the event. So, how we're going to really realize that metaphor here, or that analogy here, is going through examples of some people. So, we've got three examples. There was three or four actually, if you're listening in. And yes, I always thought it might be helpful to lay out what actually we're going to be covering in this video. So we've got four examples of essentially reading between the lines of what someone is wrestling with and how we can just gently help them. So this could be helpful between you and your spouse. It could be helpful between you and your children. It could be helpful between you and a work colleague, and to just help you listen better to the words that are being said, because there is so much information behind the words that is not communicated. And that's what I'm going to help you with here. Okay. So, Fred and Hazel, a couple that we adore. Hazel emailed me. She was cross and upset. And here's what Hazel said: I'm feeling so cross and like we're just going nowhere. I feel like I'm putting in all the effort and he's got his head up his bleep, apart from when it concerns his mother. Okay, so instantly there's a whole bunch of information. So the point number one here, um, often the more emotionally aware partner in marriage and in relationship can feel like, and often do, a lot of the emotional lifting in their relationship. And I have I've literally heard men say, well, she does the relationship in our marriage. And this can lead to that person feeling like it's all down to you. So that's exactly how Hazel feels here. And it can feel like a very lonely place and a very thankless task if the partner isn't as emotionally aware as the other. So they're certainly not going to say, thanks for helping me with my emotions today, because it's really helped me have a better day. They just, you know. So And I'm not saying that that's true, that there's always somebody who does the most of the emotional lifting in a relationship, but often it can be. But mainly here, we're acknowledging how Hazel feels, not so much if it's true or not. We're acknowledging how she feels, which is one of the primary ways we communicate to someone that we care about them, that how you feel matters to me. Point number two, yeah, on the whole, people are very unaware and sensitive to how important they are to you. They might communicate that in certain behaviors, certain words and choices. Um, and one of the ways we communicate to people how important they are to us is who we prioritize. And in this case, she isn't feeling prioritized. She's feeling unimportant to him generally, and even comes below his mother. I mean, that sounds so very sweet in certain circles. Oh, he really loves his mum and wants to look after his mum. The happiest way to look at this is to ask, what is a husband's number one priority if he wants a happy marriage? Is the number one husband's priority should be his wife, which doesn't mean never do anything for anyone else. It just means she takes priority, and all choices around life are made with that principle in place. So you very well might just go and spend lots and lots of time with his mother. That's cool, as long as that's been agreed with his wife. After his priority being wife, then it's kids, then it's who he chooses, extended family, friends, and that's the way we recommend it here. That's just one way to be happy. You get to look at it however you like. So back to Hazel. It was her birthday yesterday, so we all went over for 2 hours in the late afternoon. It was crap. Dave was just running around trying to please her. And when I saw the big bunch of roses he bought her, I just felt really hurt. She had a list of jobs for him written down to do whilst he was over there. Question exclamation mark. It's bleeping ridiculous. So listening into this, it would be so very tempting to sympathize with and conclude that this bonehead husband of hers is just that, a complete bonehead. And how can this poor innocent woman and sweet lady be treated so horribly by this brute of a man? And sure, right, there is a part of that here. He does have a responsibility in this situation to admit that, hey, I wasn't prioritizing you. I was prioritizing my mother. Knowing Dave, he wouldn't see that that was happening. So it's neither here nor there. In this case, though, she is the topic, right? So we can't really identify what Dave's doing wrong because he's not really asking. She is essentially asking, what can I do better here, because this is really sucking. So how we know that is we're just going to read on some more. Um, Back to the roses. The pain and hurt she is feeling here is not just about those. What's lumped in here is her having a lifetime of feeling unimportant and like she doesn't matter as much as other people for a whole host of reasons. And about the time of Hazel writing, she was about 50-ish, and she wasn't feeling worthwhile in childhood, never really being taught how to confidently and boldly get her needs met. And it's important to remember that meeting our needs is our responsibility. And we get to ask our partners clearly, asking them clearly for help with meeting those needs. So, as an example, I always ask a partner, how do you feel when somebody spontaneously buys you flowers, right? Maybe 8, 9 on the happiness scale, maybe. It depends if they're buying them to make up for something. uh, and but the frequency and likelihood that they will spontaneously buy flowers is around 3 to 4 out of 10. On that scale, maybe the likelihood of them buying flowers, or the frequency even. So, absolutely illustrating a point here. So, how much does the happiness factor reduce if she clearly asks for the flowers? Let's just say that takes the happiness factor down from, let's say it was 9, down to a 5 out of 10. Let's say you've asked for it and you got it, but he did get it and you like what he's bought. But it infinitely increases the likelihood of him or her following through on that request because you've made a clear request of what you want. Um, so so essentially, you are now in control of the frequency. So you feel that you lose maybe 4 marks out of 10 for it not being spontaneous, but this could happen fortnightly, and you get the chance to enjoy that, and you are not obligating them just because you have asked them. You get to ask for what you want, not demand, and they get to choose to reciprocate. And then you get to feel the lovely experience of being bought the flowers. They still follow through. You can still appreciate it. Yet we hold on to this desire for a mind reading partner, who just knows us and should do because we've been married for 100 years. It just no, just doesn't happen that way. Back to Hazel. I have no idea why I agreed to go over. I must be insane. Bless her. She's not interested in us. She's not interested in us at all. I feel totally crap. So she's just pouring her heart out here. What she means to say is, um, no one's interested in me. He's not interested in me. And if he's not interested in me and his mother's not interested in me, my son shouldn't be interested in me. My daughter shouldn't be interested in me because that's not their job. So who the hell is? And she is just feeling more and more lonely. And yet, Dave's actions are not the primary cause of her suffering and upset. He's not even really the secondary. He might not even be the tertiary. It is the whole lifetime of feeling like she just doesn't matter. She says, I watched a movie recently that took me back to my childhood and what I believed about myself and what I still believe. And all the choices I've made so far in my life have consequences for how I live now. And what might my life have been like if I would have had the love that I really needed? It really sucks. And as yet, in this email at least, she hasn't necessarily accepted that she's carrying a lot of this. She was carrying it when she got into the car before she went to his mother's. She's been carrying it around for a lot of her life, and she's actually, because I know her, beginning to really get clear on the level of emotional pain and damage she's been carrying. And this is so common. So you know what? She just needs a flipping hug, and someone to come and find her and tell her it's going to be okay and that she matters. Like, it's literally that simple. A whole host of other stuff too, but it really starts there. She says, "I need a hug, and I want to feel it's all okay. I feel like a child and incapable of loving and teaching anyone." She says, "Deep breath. Thanks for listening. I can't believe you've got this far if you're still reading." So she does introduce her children. And at the end, there's a little extension of that to say, look at what a crap mother I am also, because I can't demonstrate a happy, loving relationship to my family. So really, her heart really desires to give that example and to give her children a more emotionally nourishing experience than she had. So what can she do differently? Yeah. So a practical step, which isn't anywhere near as important as giving her the space to dump this, and accepting her really while she does, would be visiting that principle enough above that we alone are responsible for our happiness. Like, we are responsible for our physical fitness. We are responsible for our mental fitness. We're responsible for our emotional fitness. Literally, nobody can, no one else could do that for us, and nor should they. This is your job. This is your life. So yeah. So we don't have information here, in terms of how often she is doing this, um, getting this stuff out, not just carrying it around with her, or even letting Dave know. that when he is around his mother's, he runs around as a headless chicken. And what she would like is that he is more attentive to her. So that might look like checking in, asking him to come and check in with her when they're at his mum's. Hey, how are you doing? I've just noticed you're here. You're here. Or just taking a moment to just grab her hand at the dining table and just look in her eyes to just say, "Hi, I see you. It matters that you're here with me." You know, Dave is running around like a headless chicken. There's a whole conversation to have with him here around his mother, but he's not here. This is about Hazel. Um, and ultimately having a conversation about this ahead of time to if this happens again, hey, I just feel a little bit undervalued when I'm around your mother. Can you come and find me and do blank? Can you do this one thing differently when we are there? Not to control this guy within an inch of his life, just to make one request to take that responsibility for her happiness. Yeah, bless her. So two components there. One, she just really needs to feel, and some of what I read out to you, I replied to her. She just needs to feel heard. Like, that situation does suck. It really does hurt. She does feel completely useless and worthless in that event, and yet there was more underneath the surface that would give information and help her see things more clearly for in terms of how she is feeling. Otherwise, that just turns into Dave is like literally the worst husband on the planet. Why the heck did I marry this bonehead? And, you know, that just doesn't get us anywhere, because it was mainly about her and how she felt about herself. So that's some emotional work that can heal. If she divorced Dave, how long is it going to married somebody else? How long is it going to be until she repeats exactly the same situation if the issue she believed was just about him? It's going to be 6 months, and she's going to have that exact same experience with another new husband, plus of having divorced from the last one. Sheesh. So Debs and Terry. Debs and Terry. So another lesson at reading behind the words and some context. She feels quite lonely in her marriage right now, and and the thought that um, yes. So we had she shares with me. We had another fight on Saturday night. He said to me during the fight that he had asked you if you thought our marriage could work, and you had said yes, but it would be work. He then said that if it didn't work, that you would be there for him, as in me, Ben, and to help him to ensure that he wouldn't be bullied in his next marriage. So that's the intro. And there is a lot going on here behind the lines. So this is a lesson in just that. She does feel really lonely in her marriage. Certainly did when she sent this email. And and the thought now that essentially two people are ganging up on her when she feels alone already, and only one of those two people has any chance in hell of being trusted, and that person being me. This is just too much. And I know that she was ganged up on as a kid, and had some really challenging childhood experiences around that. And so that's very present for her right here. Now, I didn't say this to him, and I love it when people quote me in their arguments. Well, Ben said this, um, and because they know the power of that for someone I'm helping, and yeah, I can just become another tool in the toolbox. So the truth is, I do have his back, but I have hers as well, and yes, and he's chosen some additional words there. So she says, Deb says, and the last part about being not being bullied in his next marriage just really upset me. So she didn't say anything else, right? Now you can interpret that if you've got interpreting skills. So I'm going to do that here. So it upset her that she was both being accused of being a bully and that Ben, would be there for him. Um, and and as I had not said that to her, I didn't say that. I perhaps wouldn't be there because mainly her husband is in the right, and he's been so wronged by this evil person called Debs that she's actually the bad guy, and that's the reason, of the two of you, she's nuts, buddy, and you're not. So I'm gonna back you, right? This is the kind of conversation that's going on in her head. And she goes on to say, I get that those were his words, and they may have been worded differently than what was originally said, but it's just been really upsetting me the last few days. So there is a slither inside of her that suggests in the heat of the moment those things have been said, and they might not necessarily be word for word what I have said, Ben, yet in her head is in control here. And although she understands that intellectually, there's this emotional part, this emotional pain that she perceives are the actual truth, so she's trying to adjust away this pain with logic in her head, and it's just not working because her emotions are really in control here. This is an emotional job. It's an emotional issue. So I asked her what specifically hurt about his words, because it really helps her to verbalize some of the stuff that I know, but for her to take that step from pain to start to get some clarity of, yeah, how am I really looking at this? She says, I know you are here for me as well. I have felt so much trust and acceptance with you. I guess the way he said it and the words he used made me feel like you aren't. So in that moment, I just felt this huge amount of doubt, lonely, shut down, disconnected, confused. Am I making this up? She just didn't know where she was. I think it just hurt because I felt very in love in the moment, and that he took away some of that gift that you've given me. I know that's not the truth, but it was how I felt. See that? That's the power of the emotional system. It wins really, and maybe he used it a bit to hurt me. I guess it made me feel like you felt he deserves better than me, and I'm not worthy enough to deserve love in marriage, but he is. You see where that goes? Like, gosh. So again, we could really vilify the partner. Um, but what's really important here in terms of her growing in emotional strength, she has an opportunity to make different choices about what he said, because here she knows it's not the truth. So, in fact, if we can understand how to interpret and manage our emotions more effectively, it wouldn't lead her into this pit of despair and pain. So marriage is built on trust, transparency, openness, acceptance, attention, honesty, integrity, doing what you say you're going to do, giving as much as you can. I mean, eh, all healthy relationships are all built on that, actually. Most marriage is built on, I like how you make me feel, or you make me feel more attractive or powerful. So all the kind of stuff that's very transient and surface level, so in marriage, nearly all of those lovely terms, transparency, trust, openness, acceptance, honesty, integrity, they start to dissolve if they were even present in the first place, because we're so blinded by that attractiveness and surface level stuff, and the unhelpful things that have a very limited shelf life. Um, so it very much looks like an archaeological dig, because we're all born with those characteristic and attributes, and the experiences we had as children and when we were raised, they shape us. Dr. David Hawkins calls it our family training. I think that's really gentle, because our family training just about made us nuts. And so, yeah, and rarely are those really important terms, characteristics, role modeled. What's instead happens instead as those lovely elements of what makes a person strong, emotionally strong, resilient, loving, happy. They're beaten out of us or role modeled out, and we just hoover up a whole lot of other crap. And I always describe it as, when you install some new, when we used to install new software in a brand new computer, the hardware just accepts anything. It's the software that asks for a password, it's not the hardware. So that's how we are. We're just these pieces of hardware just absorbing all of these floppy disks. Remember those? Depends how old you are listening, and you might not remember those. And what was it? Floppy disk could save at least 3 or 4 Word files, couldn't it? Large Word files, big uni assignments. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, so often what we do is we just role model those important elements, those really important happiness building blocks for people until they can, feel comfortable themselves to do that whilst they develop and grow in strength. So in the case of Debs, again, not an evil, horrible husband. They were just caught up in the heat of the moment. And yeah, he wanted to hurt her in that argument. She didn't give any information about what she had said or her contribution to that event. It was just, here's what he said to me, and it really hurt. And actually, she just wanted to check. Did you say that? Did you say that? Please tell me you didn't say that. Yeah, of course, I wouldn't say that. I love Debs. I love Terry too. Diane and Ted, they were having problems in their marriage, and Diane wrote to me, and their names again have been changed for the purposes of anonymity. So she told me she's actually really wise and just lumps these two things together: experiences I had and the event I'm having right now, and not just her. Diane does what we all do, and we lump those two. We've had problems with our car recently, and we haven't bought it that long ago, and I've just made any problems with that car mean I'm bad, I messed up, I'm stupid. And I've lumped all those early experiences and brought them all into the present, and I turn them into this awful ball of nonsense, and it's really unhelpful to actually solve a car problem with any level of sanity anyway. So that's about what's about to happen here. So throughout my childhood, my parents said incredibly hurtful things to each other and argued incessantly. At times when they were at their lowest, they said hurtful things to me too. Ted, her husband, knows this. I've already told him. And he can be a complete bleep. He just can't shut up. And he never quits telling me what I'm doing wrong. I mean, who wants to hear that over and over again, what you're doing wrong? And she calls him another swear word. What's wrong with this guy? Why does he always do this to me? Yes, I know this person, and he is doing his best to control a situation that is scaring him by trying to tell someone else what they're doing wrong. And he knows that doesn't work. I know that doesn't work. It doesn't stop me doing it. It doesn't stop Kerry doing it, but it does work for Kerry, which is a different issue. So when things are going just okay, back to Diane, just around the corner, he starts complaining and telling me all the things I'm doing wrong. I mean, my gosh. So how can I, so the question was, how can I stop him? How can I stop this madman and give myself some space? In this dialogue, Diane and Ted are hurting each other, and she's blaming him for her suffering. He's blaming her for his. So who is to blame here? Now, this is all the information I've got, and this might be a typical piece of information that you either hear from your wife or you hear a friend say to you. And how do we deal with that? What the truth is, we're missing a whole lot of information, and the answer can't be found in the detail that's been given because it's just from Diane's perspective. But that is really important. She doesn't mention anything about the part Ted is playing or what Ted's doing. In fact, she's sending an SOS message that says, I don't know how to handle this. I'm scared and I don't know what to do. Please help. That's actually what she's saying. And she believes that if we can just wrap stick a great big dirty dishcloth in his mouth and wrap him up in a straight jacket, life would be a lot easier. But then she'd have to take him to the toilet and feed him and see. So having control of somebody might stop the initial pain, but then you've got wiping bums, fully grown man. You know, you don't really want to go there. So we don't know about Ted or what he is really doing wrong or what mistakes he is making either. And they're both convinced that the other's at fault and responsible for a lifetime of pain and suffering. So who is responsible? They're both responsible, both responsible for this situation. So when we describe marital situations in the way Diane has, she's just trying to make sense of her world and she's trying to control it. In fact, she is desperately hoping if she finds the right person to blame, everything will work out happy again. Because if I identify the perpetrator, I'm the victim here. If I identify the perpetrator and we isolate the perpetrator from the problem, we lock him up, this madman I married, um, and the person being blamed will the perpetrator will stop doing what they're doing. They'll stop hurting me, and then I can be happy again. So this logic sounds like it makes sense, but it's based on two flaws. One, I need to get my battery charger. Three, then. Notes to self. Based on two errors. That the thing I am trying to change is the only thing that is making me feel unhappy. And if I change that thing, I will be perfectly happy. And before they start, and the second error is before they started doing this to me, I was already happy. And until they started doing this, yeah, everything was cool. So, two reasons that say if I eliminate this painful stimulus, this pain will disappear. Um, so, she does have the choice to eliminate that stimulus, actually. She could leave, right? Number one, she could leave. She could kick him out, replace him with a dog or a cat. I know her. At times, this sounds like a just wonderful option. Life will be much easier. It will not completely solve that issue for her, but she does have that choice because she's going to meet other people like Ted. And right, she doesn't really know how to deal with them. All right, she won't be married to all the Teds in the world. Yet there's something important for her to learn in terms of her emotional strength and how to manage a person like Ted. We're all here to learn and exercise our freedom to choose to do what we like and to manage the consequences of the choices we make. And one of the most valuable skills we're going to cultivate and develop are the ability to love people that aren't easy to love. And hey, got a level with you. I'm not great at that either. I'm a huge work in progress with that stuff. But there are very few skills worth learning compared to that one. You know, rich man doesn't know how to deal with people, miserable. Rich woman doesn't know how to deal with people, miserable. Money doesn't make us happiness. Time doesn't even make us happiness, make us happy. Dealing with people well, they're going to be a constant unless you choose to go live on some mountain somewhere. Are going to be a constant in your life, and you could live peopleless, um, but they're also a source of wonderful joy, love, passion, energy, wisdom. And we are all human beings who are born with a craving for connection. And that might not be a physical connection. If you are married to a Kerry, it might just be talking in the same room a lot. And that's actually, I like to be much closer and not doing so much talking. So back to Diane. So she could leave. She could stay and actively hate Ted and continue on that path. Um, the, the pandemic is a great example of this hating, and we see people hating all kinds of stuff about it. I've hated stuff about it. I've hated people around it, um, and and the truth is, some people, I like to include myself in that now, are seeing this as one of the best things that have happened because of what challenges it is creating for each and every one of us in our own different way. It is forcing us to grow and to learn. And some of us just don't like how that looks, and that's okay. Yet it is an opportunity to start over and to learn some new things. So she can actively hate on Ted, yet hating on something is just like, you know, eating a live wasp's nest, which I've had some dealings with in this area here, and expecting, someone else to feel the pain of the wasps, at the end of Ted mainly in Diane's situation. So that is a choice. It's the choice of death, but um, she can, she could, she cannot change Ted. She can't wrap him in a straitjacket. She can't put a rag in his mouth, even if she despises his choices, even if he is free to make his choices. Um, he is still free to do what he chooses to do. And the beauty of that, when that does go well in marriage, means that he is choosing to love her and learn how to love her. And that is a huge gift. Like, we can't really ask for more than that, than someone to be willing to learn, even if while they're learning, they're a crazy person at times. It's one of the nicest gifts anyone's ever going to give you. And he needs to be able to choose that, as well as he needs to be able to actively choose to be a bonehead. He needs to learn how to choose better, but he needs to be able to choose. And so do you. You have choices, honey. You don't need to stay. You can learn how to love him. Choice number 4, and learn everything you can about how to love a person. And the huge benefit isn't just that Ted will be happier as a result of you learning that. You will be happier. You will feel stronger. If you can love a Ted, you've nailed it. Like, mm, nothing else funner and cooler than that. So she does have access to 4 choices. So here are a difficult set of questions to ask. What can I do to improve this situation? What mistakes am I creating to have fueled this situation? I mean, oh my gosh, that'll put hairs on your something or others. So here's what that might sound like. Here's what it might sound like to do better in that situation. Diane speaking to Ted. Ted still crazy, right? But we haven't changed that. Here's how we can love a little bit a crazy person. They might jump on some of these words. It's just a suggestion. There are thousands of others. Diane, Diane speaking, over the last few weeks, I've been less attentive and distracted with work. You might have felt distant from me. I mean, she's owning something already. People can listen. As soon as you start owning stuff, people open their ears a little bit. And it really helps if you help a crazy person to listen a little bit. I can really get in my head when my work takes top priority. Oh my gosh, he's going to love this. He might jump in and say, yeah, it does take progress. Yeah, okay. But, we need to make progress somehow. I've noticed that you've been giving me more feedback over the last few days. Are you willing to give me one piece of feedback right now and let us discuss what else is going on around this to see if we can improve that insert specific situation together? I mean, this guy is insane if he doesn't see an opportunity to improve something there. She's literally asking for one specific piece of information that they can work on together, which is really brave. The problem here, he's bringing this overwhelming amount of energy, and she just wants to die. She's making it clear, one piece of information for me and we can work together. It's just one way. She did do that. They're working it out. Last example, angry man says, this is Chris, I choose anger to get my own way and control situations, just like my family, especially dad. We don't all learn it from dad, by the way. I know many an angry mum. Never will be. I say, is what's been role modeled, and unfortunately, it doesn't work. It works short term anyway. It was your reaction to not getting what you wanted. Makes you feel very lonely. And if you get what you want, you feel merely satisfied. So, really unfulfilled. We get upset when we expect someone to do something for us and they don't. So often I hear a partner say, he should just know by now, or she should just know by now. I've told them hundreds of times already. Well, you're asking me how we can make this work. And, we can't force people into neurosurgery. So we just tell them once and then they just do it. And I know that people are almost never making crystal clear requests of their partners. I know. And what I'm adding into the crystal clear is the tone that you make a request and the timing of the request are really important. I've told you. Yeah, well, you spoke to him like he's a 3-year-old and he just can't hear it. He just feels stupid. So, um, so yeah, neurosurgery is not something we can force our partners into, although I know that some women would love it if I said they could just start during the middle of the night when their husband's asleep. Chris says, it's not something I'm proud of, and I'm trying to learn about myself to break this horrible habit which I use towards my wife, and I kill our connection. 2 events came up where I felt stupid and worthless, and I used anger to compensate for that. Great. It's great that he can see the 2 elements that are actually contributing to his anger are feeling stupid and worthless. Yeah. And anger is a reaction to those 2 feelings. So we don't necessarily have to treat the anger. What we do have to treat is the feeling stupid and worthless. How can I share my feelings so she can see what's going on for me? Because he's not feeling in the heat of the moment that he can say, I feel stupid and worthless right now because she's, and he's getting angry to try and control his situation. So Diane blaming Ted to control her situation, Chris using anger to control his situation. So it's what we're trying to do, trying to control life and the people around us. So anger is a lid to our pain. And we are angry because we believe someone should be doing something for us that they're not, that they owe us for what we have done for them, or doing something to us that they shouldn't be. But we have to get more clarity on stupid and worthless. So where we are heading is seeing it and naming it. Okay. He says he's mainly learned this from his parents, anger and control. I bought a ton of crap tools in my relationships. My feelings of I'm worthless and inadequate or stupid are very prominent. So much so they're going on each day. It's so important for men to hear this, that anger is a reaction to something inside, not really a reaction to an event that has occurred out there. All right. So the event actually puts us in touch with those already internalized feelings of stupid and inadequate. And those feelings are the problem and not the root cause. These events only contribute to symptoms. So you telling me I shouldn't be angry? No, it's just natural to be angry. But is it the most effective approach to get what you want from the situation? Unfortunately, short term tends to be, but anger applied over the long term is just death, and the people around you know that. So it's impossible for us to be using anger and be happy at the same time. It just does not work. I'm telling you what you already know. Um, so anger is incredibly intoxicating. It really does work short term, but we communicate to the people around us three things. I don't care about you right now. The only important person here is me. How I feel makes me the most important person in the world right now. So, me, world. And I'm scared and I have no other way to manage this situation. This is the best I've got. And that third one is what we don't tend to hear. Kids and partners rarely hear number three. So, although we lie when we're angry because we believe someone has deliberately done something to us, um, we now have to and that when someone's done something to us, we now have 100% justification to respond however we like. Yeah. So even if that person's made a mistake, if they've done it to us first, somewhere in us we believe that we've got now free reign to respond however we want, and then stuff get crazy, you know. So how do we really give up anger? Number one, you have to identify it's actually an issue for you. What we do is we justify anger because of what has been done to us. So, we don't miss a beat with that. So I don't need to take responsibility for my anger at all because you've just done something to me that really hurts. So I can be as angry as I like. So that's not ownership. That's called blaming. But the one step of saying anger is an issue for me, I am angry. Yeah, I'm an angry person. It just neutralizes the energy of it. It brings a degree of peace. It brings a degree of humility, and um, that as a one step will alleviate a big percentage of the anger that you experience. Most angry people are in a complete denial of the level of anger that they use. Number two, work through it. Stop. You have to find some space to really work through the real cause of anger to find out what it actually is. Is it really that I haven't got enough money to pay the bills this month, or am I actually afraid of being shouted at by the people I owe the money to, and that'll make me feel bad, and then I'll get kicked out of my house, and I won't provide a house for the kids, and then I'll be a big fat whopping great big failure, and no one will ever love me ever again. Like, that's the root. It's not the bills. Yeah, what we talk to people about day in day out here. So yeah, find a coach or a therapist or counselor to help you manage your anger more effectively, because I got news for you. Really important news just come into the Lepier office that people that are angry become unhappy long term if they're not unhappy already, and it doesn't lead to a perfectly loving marriage. Bottom line, some feuding and arguing can be quite healthy. Um, on the whole, everyone could do a kick in their anger a little bit. There's no news flash here. I hope that was helpful for you, everybody. I feel like singing, but I won't. Kerry will tell me to delete the episode if I do. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a great week. We're just about to go and get the caravan and go off for the weekend. So we are very excited. I hope that was helpful for some of you. Just an example of what you might say yourself, what situation you might find yourself in an effort to become less stressed, less tense, less overwhelmed, more emotionally free and happier, is to understand what's really going on in the tank. The more clarity you get around what's going on there, the more responsibility you can take for your happiness and to build the kind of life you want to. Okay, folks, see ya.